The galaxy agreed on very few things. Empires argued, species conflicted, stars died without ceremony, and civilizations rewrote history to pretend they hadn't failed. But there was one truth no one disputed. Some things were unreachable. The upper skies were one of them. They were not skies in the human sense, no clouds, no atmosphere, no blue stretching endlessly overhead. The upper skies were layers of reality itself, regions of space where gravity folded inward, where energy currents tore matter apart, and where navigation failed no matter how advanced the technology. Every species that tried to reach them vanished. Not dramatically, not explosively. They simply ceased. So the galaxy labeled the upper skies what it always labeled the unknown: forbidden. And when humanity arrived on the galactic stage, young and loud and unbearably curious, the Council made sure to tell them. The Council of Stellar Ascendancy convened above the ringed world of Illyrics, its chamber suspended in orbit like a crown of light. Representatives from 100 civilizations gathered there, each shaped by different gravity, different biology, different philosophies, but united by shared caution. At the center of the chamber hovered a massive holographic projection, a map of known space, and above it, marked in warning glyphs older than most species present, were the upper skies. The human delegation stood on a modest platform near the lower tier. They were fewer than most delegations, no towering frames, no shimmering energy bodies, just humans, men and women in dark uniforms, hands folded, eyes lifted toward something they had never been allowed to approach. The Ketheri overlord spoke first, his voice resonating like stone grinding against stone. "Humans," he said, "you expand quickly, faster than expected, faster than advisable." No one contradicted him. "You build stations in unstable systems. You colonize worlds others abandoned. You fly ships we would classify as optimistic." A ripple of restrained amusement passed through the chamber. "But there is one boundary you will not cross," the overlord said, gesturing to the glowing projection. "The upper skies." The human ambassador, Commander Elias Rowe, inclined his head politely. "We understand the warning," he said. The overlord's eyes narrowed. "Intelligence," he replied, "is not the same as acceptance." Rowe smiled faintly. "No," he agreed, "it isn't." The chamber grew quieter. The Aurelian matrons, beings of light and probability, shifted uneasily. One species asks this question once: can we reach higher? Can we go where others failed? And every species learns the same lesson. The sky does not care how brave you are. Rowe folded his hands behind his back. "With respect," he said, "humans don't look at the sky and ask if it cares." The Ketheri overlord let out a low, dangerous rumble. "Then what do you ask?" Rowe looked up at the projection. "We ask what it costs," he said. Silence followed. The overlord straightened. "You will not attempt ascent," he said firmly. "The Council forbids it. The upper skies are unreachable." Rowe met his gaze. "That's what everyone said about flight," he replied. The chamber erupted, not in chaos, but in sharp reactions. Murmurs, energy flickers, irritation. "This is arrogance," snapped a delegate from the Virex clade. "Your species has not earned." "We're not asking for permission," Rowe interrupted gently. That stopped them. The overlord stared. "Then why are you here?" he demanded. Rowe exhaled slowly. "To tell you," he said, "that we're going anyway." The human ship Aurora ascending did not look like a miracle. That was the problem. From the outside, it appeared almost crude. Layered hull plating, external reinforcement struts, redundant engines bolted on like afterthoughts. It lacked the elegant curves of Aurelian craft or the crystalline precision of Cathari design. Alien analysts mocked it openly. It is overbuilt, one said. Inefficient, said another. Designed by fear, concluded a third. They were right. Humans called it experience. Captain Mira Calder stood on the bridge, hands resting lightly on the rail, eyes fixed on the expanding darkness ahead. The upper skies loomed like a wound in reality. Sensors screamed warnings that no algorithm could fully interpret. Gravity fluctuated wildly. Time itself stuttered at the edges of perception. Every species that had ever come this close turned back. Calder did not. Status, she said calmly. Structural integrity holding, replied her engineer, voice tight. Barely. Navigation Officer Jin swallowed. Ma'am, Council projections say we won't last 60 seconds past the threshold. Calder nodded. Good thing we didn't build this ship for projections, she said. A pause. Then quietly she added, we built it for people. She tapped her console. All hands, she said over the comm. This is it. No heroics, no panic. We do this together or not at all. A chorus of acknowledgments followed. Not brave ones, honest ones. Fear threaded every voice, and still no one backed out. As the Aurora ascending crossed the boundary, reality resisted. The ship screamed. Hull plates warped. Energy conduits flared and died. Gravity spiked hard enough to snap bone if not compensated instantly. Alien observation platforms lit up with alarm. They're tearing apart, someone said. They should already be gone, whispered another. Inside the Aurora, Captain Calder was thrown against her harness as the ship shuddered violently. Hold together, she murmured, not as an order, but a plea. And the ship did, not because it was perfect, but because it was stubborn. The council watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The human vessel did not vanish. It climbed, slowly, painfully, meter by meter, second by second. Impossible, breathed an Aurelian matron. The Cathari overlord leaned forward. They are violating structural limits. Physics will correct this. But physics hesitated. Inside the Aurora, systems failed, and humans adapted. When engines burned out, they rerouted thrust. When sensors blinded, they flew by instinct. When probability collapsed into chaos, they kept choosing to act anyway. Why haven't they broken? Demanded a Virex delegate. A human scientist watching from a distant relay answered softly, because breaking isn't the same as stopping. The Aurora ascending pierced the first layer of the upper skies. Reality bent, and for the first time in galactic history, something reached higher. From the Council's observation gallery, the Aurora ascending looked wrong. Not wrong in design. There had been uglier ships, stranger ships, ships held together by pride and prayer. It looked wrong in the way a candle looks wrong when it refuses to go out in a storm. It should have vanished the moment it crossed the threshold. Every chart said so. Every record confirmed it. Every species that tried had left behind nothing but a final burst of static and a blank space in the log. Yet there it was, climbing. The upper skies rippled around it like a living thing deciding whether to swallow. Inside the council chamber, delegates leaned forward, their bodies and energy fields tense with a kind of collective unease that had nothing to do with compassion. This wasn't fear for the humans. This was fear for the rules.
The Cathari overlord stood rigid, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the central projection. "Maintain observation," he ordered. "Record everything." Aurelian matrons drifted in tight formation, their luminous forms dimmer than before. "This is not ascent," one of them whispered, voice trembling like a string pulled too tight. "It is intrusion." A Virex delegate hissed a laugh that sounded forced. "Let them intrude. Reality will respond. It always does." The overlord's gaze never left the rising icon of the human ship. "Reality is responding," he said softly. "It just hasn't finished." On the Aurora ascending, reality had teeth. The first layer of the upper skies was not a wall, it was a storm, an endless pressure gradient that didn't push in one direction, but all directions. Down became sideways, forward became heavier, time pulsed unevenly like a heartbeat skipping beats. Captain Mira Calder tasted copper. Her harness cut into her shoulders as gravity spiked again, pinning her chest like a hand. "Report," she rasped. "Port stabilization is gone," Engineer Rafi Malik shouted over the alarms. His fingers danced over manual controls that were never meant to be used this hard. Another violent lurch slammed the bridge sideways. A crew member cried out. Something shattered. The ship groaned like metal begging for mercy. Navigation Officer Jin gripped his console, knuckles white. "Ma'am," he said, voice thin, "we're drifting off vector. The currents, I can't map them. They're changing faster than we can predict." Calder swallowed, forcing air into lungs that didn't want to expand. "Then stop predicting," she said. Jin blinked. "What?" Calder's eyes stayed forward. "That's how storms work. You don't win against the wind. You learn what the wind is trying to do, and you ride it." The bridge fell into a tight, terrified silence. Then Jin's hands moved again. He stopped trying to calculate exact vectors. Instead, he watched patterns, tiny repeats, micro delays, the way the ship lurched in a rhythm. I see it," he whispered. "There's a pulse. It's not random." Rafi scoffed once, then fell quiet as he saw it too. Calder's voice softened. "Everything has a rhythm," she said, "even chaos, especially chaos." Another spike hit. But this time, the Aurora didn't fight it head-on. It angled into it, just a fraction, and the ship's scream changed pitch. Not gone, but less desperate, like pain turning into strain. Far behind them, near the boundary, the Council's observation probes recorded the ascent. The probe feeds were projected into the Council chamber in high resolution, the ship's battered outline visible against the bending darkness. The Cracks delegates, who had once laughed at humans for overbuilding, went silent as external hull plating peeled away like skin. "That ship is shedding armor," one Cracks ambassador clicked, disturbed. "It is losing mass." Aurelian matron responded softly. "It is losing weight." The Virex delegate leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "No," it hissed, "it is being stripped." The Cathari overlord's claws tightened. "The upper skies reject complexity," he said, as if reminding himself. "They punish structure. They unravel anything that insists it should remain whole." A matron drifted lower, voice almost reverent. "And the humans insist anyway." On board the Aurora, the first major failure arrived quietly. Not with an explosion, with a single sentence. "Life support in Section C just dipped," reported Medical Officer Dr. Lena Sato. Her voice came through comms with controlled calm that couldn't hide the strain beneath. "Pressure seals aren't holding. 2 compartments are venting." Calder's stomach dropped. "How many crew in C?" she asked. A pause. 12, Dr. Sato answered. "Engineering and maintenance." Rafi's face went gray. "That's my people." Jin looked up, panic flaring. We can turn back." Calder didn't answer immediately. She stared at the forward display, where the second layer shimmered faintly, an even darker region where the probe data stopped making sense. They hadn't come this far to retreat at the first true wound. But the ship wasn't a symbol. It was a home full of breathing bodies. Calder hit the comm. "Seal off Section C," she ordered. Rafi's head snapped up.
"Ma'am, seal it," Calder repeated. "We stabilize the ship, then we recover them." Rafi's jaw clenched so hard his cheek twitched. He didn't argue again. "Acknowledged," he said quietly, and the pain in that word was sharper than any alarm. One by one, bulkheads slammed shut across the Aurora's spine. The ship shuddered in protest, as if it could feel what it was doing. In the sealed section, a dozen humans were now trapped between vacuum and a sky that didn't want them alive. And on the bridge, every crew member heard the silence of those comm lines. No screams, no pleas, just dead air, the kind that haunted you later. Jin's voice broke. We just left them." Calder's eyes didn't blink. "No," she said, "we didn't leave them." She looked at the forward display again. "We bought time." The council watched the compartment seals engage. They didn't know what they were seeing at first, just a series of internal pressure changes, a flicker of red indicators. Then the translation systems caught up. "Human ship has isolated inhabited compartments," the Corps announced, processing the feed. "Casualty risk increased." The Virex delegate emitted a sound like satisfaction. "There, now reality collects its debt." But the Aurelian matrons reacted differently. One of them dimmed, voice soft. "They sacrificed part of themselves to keep moving." The Crack's ambassador clicked uneasily. "That is not strategy. That is desperation." The Cathari overlord's gaze narrowed. "It is choice," he said. He sounded angry, but beneath it, something else flickered, something he did not name. Back on the Aurora, the next step wasn't calculated. It was decided. Rafi stared at the structural map, hands shaking. "Captain," he said, voice tight, "if we keep this up, the hull won't hold past the next layer. I can reinforce with the remaining plates, but it'll add mass. The currents will hit harder." Calder nodded slowly. "And if you strip more plating—" "Then we survive the currents," Rafi said, "but we'll be naked against microfractures. One bad shear and we split." Jin swallowed. "We're running out of safe options." Calder looked at them both. "Since when was safe part of this mission?" she asked. Rafi flinched. Calder's gaze softened. "I'm not asking you to be fearless," she said. "I'm asking you to be honest." She turned to the crew. "Give it to me straight. If we continue, what's the best case?" A silence. Then Dr. Sato's voice came through again. "Best case," she said quietly, "we make it through Layer 2, stabilize, and attempt retrieval of Section C survivors." Rafi swallowed hard. "And worst case?" Calder asked. Rafi's voice barely worked. "Worst case," he said, "we join everyone else who tried, and the Council records this as proof humans were exactly what they thought." Calder stared at the forward display. Then she spoke the sentence that would echo in the minds of those listening, human and alien alike. "Then we don't give them that story." Jin blinked. "Ma'am?" Calder's voice steadied. "We didn't come here to prove we're mortal," she said. "Everybody already knows that. We came here to prove what mortals can do when they refuse to accept a ceiling." Rafi's eyes glistened. He looked away quickly, embarrassed by it. Then he nodded. "Tell me what you need," he said. Calder exhaled. "Strip the outer plates," she ordered, "but not like we're losing armor." She looked at the ship schematic. "Strip them like we're shedding weight to climb." Rafi's hands moved. Across the Aurora's hull, bolts released, plates detached.
Reinforcements that aliens would have considered essential drifted away into the dark. The ship trembled, but the pressure pulses hit differently now, less violent, more navigable, like the sky had noticed the change, like it was adjusting its grip. Jin stared at the readouts. "Captain," he whispered, voice full of disbelief, "the currents are easing." Calder didn't smile. She just closed her eyes for 1 second. "Good," she said. "That means it's listening." In the council chamber, the observers saw the human ship discard its own structure. They didn't understand it at first. Then they did, and the reaction was not laughter. It was horror. "They are dismantling themselves," the Virex delegate hissed. "They are conceding." Aurelian Matron's voice trembled. "No," it whispered, "they are adapting in reverse." The Cathari overlord's eyes narrowed. "They are becoming lighter," he murmured, as if realizing a truth too late, "not stronger."
A Crax ambassador clicked, unsettled. "Why would that help?" The overlord didn't answer immediately. He stared at the projections, at the ship that should have been gone, at the humans who refused to retreat even as pieces of their survival drifted into space. Then, softly, he said the first sentence that hinted the galaxy's assumptions were cracking. "Because humans do not climb by conquering," he said. "They climb by enduring the climb." On the Aurora, Layer 2 waited. The darkness ahead wasn't empty. It was dense, like a pressure you felt behind your eyes, a sensation that whispered, "Turn back, turn back, turn back," without using words. Jin's console flickered. "We're nearing the second boundary," he said, voice low. Rafi checked the structural readouts. "We're at 40% integrity," he said. "If we hit a shear, we won't have margin." Dr. Sato's voice was steady. "Crew status, stressed, injuries manageable, morale holding," she said, and the pause before that last word carried an entire universe of fear. Calder gripped the rail. "All hands," she said into comms. "We're entering Layer 2. I won't lie to you, this is where we might lose control." A beat. Then she added, softer, "But if we do, we lose it together. Nobody fights alone." Acknowledgements came back. Some voices were shaking, some were calm. All of them said yes. The ship crossed the boundary, and the upper skies finally did what they had always done. They tried to erase the intruder. Reality folded, time stuttered, the Aurora's lights blinked out. For half a breath, the ship didn't exist in any coordinate the Council recognized, and in the observation chamber, every alien delegate held still, waiting for the disappearance that history promised, waiting for reality to be right. For one terrible fraction of a second, the Aurora ascending was nowhere, not destroyed, not drifting, simply absent. From the Council's instruments, the ship's signature didn't fade or explode. It didn't scatter into debris or collapse into noise. It vanished between data points. The projection in the Council chamber stuttered, recalibrated, and stuttered again. "Signal loss," announced the Corps. "Spatial reference undefined." The Virex delegate leaned back, satisfied. "There," it said, "correction complete." But the Kethari overlord did not relax.
He stared at the blank space where the human ship had been. "Record the time," he said quietly. Aurelian matrons dimmed almost to invisibility, their voices hushed. "They have entered the forgetting," one whispered. "Nothing returns from there." Inside the Aurora, there was no sound, no alarms, no gravity, no up. Captain Mira Calder floated in darkness, her harness slack, her body weightless in a way that felt wrong, like the universe had let go of her without warning. Her breath sounded too loud. "Breach," she said instinctively. No answer. She reached for the rail that should have been there. Her fingers closed on empty air. For a moment, just a moment, fear threatened to take shape. Then training cut through it. "Status check,"
she said, voice calm by force of will. "Sound off." A light flickered, then another. Emergency glow strips sputtered to life, painting the bridge in soft red shadows. "Jin here," came a shaky voice. "Navigation's gone. I don't mean broken. I mean it doesn't know where we are." Rafi's voice followed, tight but present. "Engineering online. Power's unstable but holding. Hull sensors are confused." "Medical," Dr. Sato said, exhaling audibly. "We're still alive. That's the good news." Calder closed her eyes briefly. Alive meant hope. "Gravity?" she asked. "Non-existent," Rafi replied. "Artificial systems aren't responding. It's like the ship forgot which way is down." Calder floated slowly, rotating until she oriented herself by habit rather than physics. "Okay," she said. "Then we remind it." She keyed the internal comm. "All hands," she said, her voice steady despite the void pressing against her skull. "If you can hear me, report in." The responses came back in fragments. Engineering, life support, comms, cargo. Section C did not respond. Calder felt that silence like a physical blow. She pushed it down. Later. Now was for survival. "Listen carefully," she said. "We're in Layer 2. The sky's doing exactly what they warned us it would do." She paused. "But we knew that going in." Her voice softened. "This ship isn't lost. It's waiting, and so are we." In the council chamber, time stretched. Seconds passed, then more.
The core recalculated. "Human vessel remains unregistered," it said. "Probability of re-emergence negligible." The Virex delegate made a dismissive sound. "There is nothing to observe," it said. "Mark the attempt as failed." "No," the Cathari overlord said sharply. He leaned closer to the projection, claws digging into the edge of his platform. "Do not conclude yet." One of the Aurelian matrons brightened slightly. "Something is stirring," it said. The core paused. "Clarify." The matron's glow pulsed. "The void around their last position is not collapsing," it said. "It is holding shape." The crack's ambassador clicked uneasily. "Space does not hold shape without structure." The overlord's voice was low. "Unless something inside it is refusing to let go." Inside the Aurora, Calder was thinking about doors. Not airlocks, not bulkheads. Doors you push against when everything on the other side pushes back. "Rafi," she said, "can we generate thrust?" Rafi laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Thrust into what?" he said. "We don't have vectors. We don't even have direction." Calder nodded. "Then don't aim forward," she said. Jin looked up, confused. "Ma'am?" Calder took a breath. "When you're lost in a rip current," she said, "you don't fight it head on. You don't even try to swim toward shore." She looked around the bridge. "You swim sideways. You move in the one direction the current isn't trying to kill you." Rafi's eyes widened. "You want to induce lateral thrust? Blind?" "I want to feel for resistance. If reality's pushing us out, there must be a direction where it pushes less." Jin swallowed. "That's not navigation," he said. Calder smiled faintly. "No," she said, "that's instinct." Rafi hesitated, then nodded. "I can do that," he said. "Short pulses, minimal output. We see what pushes back." The Aurora shuddered as micro-thrusters fired in a dozen directions. Most of them met nothing. No resistance, no response. Then, a tremor. Subtle. Barely there. Jin's eyes snapped to his console. "Wait," he said. Something reacted. Not hard, but it noticed." Calder leaned forward. "Again," she said. "Same vector." The thrusters fired. This time the tremor was stronger. The ship didn't move much, but space around it flexed, like a muscle being pressed. Rafi sucked in a breath. "We're not drifting," he whispered. "We're leaning." Calder's heart hammered. "Good," she said. "Lean harder." Section C was running out of time. Inside the sealed compartments, 12 humans clung to handholds and each other, their breath-fogging visors, frost creeping along the edges of the bulkheads. Chief Technician Hannah Ruiz checked her wrist display again. Oxygen, low. Pressure, falling. Time, cruel. She toggled her comm again. "Section C to bridge," she said, voice calm by training, shaking by truth. "If anyone can hear this, we're still alive." Static answered. Someone laughed softly behind her. Not hysterical, gentle. "Figures," said Marcus, one of the maintenance crew. "If we had to get stuck somewhere, it'd be inside a sky that hates us." Hannah smiled despite herself. "Sky doesn't hate, it just doesn't care." She looked around at the faces, tired, scared, determined. "Helmets on," she said. "Seal everything you can. If this is it, we meet it standing." They did, hands clasped, breaths steady, waiting. On the bridge, Jin's console flickered, then stabilized. "Captain," he breathed, awe creeping into his voice. "I'm getting orientation." Calder's head snapped up. "What kind?" Jin's fingers hovered over the display. "Not coordinates, pressure gradients, like a slope." Rafi grinned despite the sweat running into his eyes. "That's enough," he said. "That's everything." Calder's voice sharpened. "Align us along it." The Aurora shifted. Not fast, not dramatic, but deliberately. The ship leaned into the faint resistance like a climber pressing weight into a handhold that might or might not exist. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, reality pushed back, hard. The ship screamed again, hull plates shuddering, systems flaring red. But this time, the push had direction. "Thrust!" Calder shouted. Rafi fired the engines. The Aurora lurched, and space gave. Just a little. Enough. Lights flared. Gravity snapped back on, weak but present. Crew slammed into harnesses and bulkheads with gasps and cries. Calder laughed, a short, breathless sound. "We're back," she said. Jin stared at his console, tears floating free in 0G before gravity claimed them. "We're back," he echoed. In the council chamber, the projection flared to life. Gasps rippled through the delegates as the human ship reappeared, scarred, stripped, but unmistakably intact. The core recalibrated frantically. "Signal reacquired," it announced. "Human vessel has reemerged within Layer 2. The Virex delegate recoiled. "That is not possible," it hissed. "Nothing reemerges from forgetting." The Ketheri overlord did not speak. He watched, silent, focused, as the projection zoomed in, revealing the battered ship still climbing, not falling, climbing. The Aurelian matrons glowed brighter, harmonics trembling. They were erased, and they returned. The overlord's voice was low. They refused to accept being forgotten. On the Aurora, alarms rang again, different this time. "Life signs from Section C," Dr. Sato shouted. "Weak but present." Calder's heart leapt. "Open the seals," she ordered, carefully. Rafi's hands flew. Bulkheads hissed open. The trapped crew spilled into pressurized corridors, coughing, laughing, crying as medics pulled them into safety. Hannah Ruiz locked eyes with Calder over the internal feed. She raised a hand. Calder returned the gesture, throat tight. "You did good," Calder said quietly. Hannah shook her head. "We all did," she replied. The Aurora steadied. Above them, the third layer of the upper skies loomed, brighter now, thinner, less hostile. Not welcoming, but no longer absolute. Jin stared at the data. "Captain," he said softly, "the sky,
It's different up here. Calder followed his gaze. It should be, she said. We taught it something. In the council chamber, no one laughed, no one spoke. They watched a human ship, wounded, stubborn, impossibly small, continue upward. And for the first time in recorded history, the upper skies did not erase the intruder. They made room. The third layer of the upper skies was not violent. That was what terrified them most. It did not tear at the aurora ascending with wild forces or try to grind it into nothing. It pressed, slowly, steadily, like a vast weight testing whether something beneath it truly belonged. The ship's battered hull creaked as if it were alive and tired. Captain Mira Calder felt it through her boots, through the deck plates, through her bones. "This is different," Jin said quietly. "The currents aren't chaotic anymore." Rafi nodded, eyes fixed on structural readouts that made no sense. It's like the sky stopped yelling and started watching. Calder swallowed. "Then don't give it a reason to push," she said. "We move clean, we move honest." The aurora climbed, not fast, not triumphantly, but relentlessly. In the Council of Stellar Ascendancy, the atmosphere had changed completely. The delegates no longer sat back in detached observation. They leaned forward. Some stood. Some dimmed their lights or tightened their fields as if bracing for something that had no precedent. The Aurelian matrons glowed with something dangerously close to reverence. "They are not forcing passage," one whispered. "They are being allowed." The Cracks ambassador clicked nervously. "Impossible," it said. "The upper skies are not sentient." The Cathari overlord finally spoke. "No," he said, "but they are responsive." His gaze never left the projection. "And humans," he added slowly, "have discovered how to be felt." On the Aurora, exhaustion settled like a second gravity. Crew members moved carefully, conserving motion. Voices were quieter now, not fearful, focused. Dr. Lena Sato moved through the medbay, checking on injuries that would have been fatal under normal conditions: broken ribs, crushed joints, burned hands. Every patient waved her away too quickly. "Later," they said, "get the others first." She hated that.
She loved them for it. Calder checked the climb data again. "Jin," she said, "how far?" Jin didn't answer immediately. Then he shook his head in disbelief. "Captain, we're past the altitude where probes stop reporting," he said. "We're beyond mapped reality." Rafi let out a slow breath. "So this is what no one else saw." Calder nodded. "This is why they said it was unreachable," she said. "They couldn't imagine being here." The pressure increased again, gentler than before, but deeper. The ship strained. Hull integrity dipped. Rafi cursed under his breath. "We're out of tricks," he said. "No more plates to shed. No more margin." Calder closed her eyes briefly, thought of Earth, of sky that looked endless until humans learned it wasn't. "All hands," she said over comms, voice steady despite everything. "Final ascent." Silence followed, then acknowledgments one by one. Not loud, not heroic, just certain. The Aurora ascending leaned into the pressure. Reality resisted, and then it shifted. Not dramatically, not violently. It yielded. The pressure eased, not because the ship pushed harder, but because the sky changed how it pressed. Jin's voice broke. "Captain, we're through." Calder opened her eyes. Above them, space unfolded differently, clearer, calmer, a vast openness that felt less like altitude and more like permission. They had reached the unreachable. In the council chamber, no one spoke.
The projection showed the human ship emerging into a region that had existed only as theory and warning. The core recalculated endlessly. "Upper sky traversal confirmed," it announced at last. "Human vessel has achieved stable presence beyond prohibited strata." The words landed like a seismic event. The Virex delegate recoiled. "This cannot stand. Their success destabilizes doctrine." The Cathari overlord did not look at it. "Doctrine exists to describe reality, not to survive being wrong." The Aurelian matrons dimmed and brightened in awe. They did not conquer the sky. They listened to it.
On the Aurora, the crew stared out at something no species had ever truly seen. Not a view, a horizon that felt taller. Calder unclipped her harness and stood slowly. "We did it," someone whispered. She shook her head. "No," she said softly. "We were allowed to." Rafi laughed, exhausted and disbelieving. "So what do we tell them?" he asked. "The Council? The Galaxy?" Calder looked back toward the long climb below them. She thought of stripped armor drifting in darkness, of sealed compartments, of humans holding doors, holding lines, holding on. "We tell them the truth," she said, "that the sky wasn't unreachable." She turned back to the viewport. It just demanded a price. The council session ended without ceremony. There was no vote, no condemnation, no applause. Only a record, one that would be studied for centuries, a single conclusion appended to the archives. Humans do not ask whether something can be reached. They ask what it costs and decide whether they are willing to pay it. As the Aurora Ascending began its careful descent, carrying proof instead of conquest, the Cathari overlord spoke one final time, softly, so only the chamber heard. "We warned them the skies were unreachable," he said, and they listened. A pause. Then they lifted the impossible anyway. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human.